Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the March 14th DFAA Advocacy webinar. My name is Brittany Sandage, and I am manning this webinar from snowy Columbus. For those of you who are traveling in and out in the wintry conditions today, I hope that everything's been smooth. We hope that your day is safe. As we kick off today, if you do have any technical issues or any questions, please make sure that you use your navigation pane. You have a question section as well as a way to chat with me if you're having any audio connectivity issues. All right, and without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Tony Coder to the webinar, and we'll get this started.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Brittany. Here we go. The first thing we want to talk about here is give a quick State House update. The big issue that is coming up on for the State House is the House Bill 49, which is the biennium budget bill. It's the bill that basically is going to divvy up all the funds outside of, I think, transportation and Bureau of Workers' Compensation. They actually have their own budget bills. But this will be the budget bill for the rest of the state of Ohio, including the budgets of the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, Job and Family Services, whatever other funding streams you might have there. The governor, as I've said on previous webinars, the governor said that this will be a flat funding piece. Job growth is only for last year was only 0.9%, so we didn't quite have a percentage point of job growth. So we basically are standing flat as far as the Ohio economy and businesses being able to add jobs, which means less, which means about the same amount of taxes and those types of things. So what we must do, in fact, we met yesterday with a number of individuals who are focused on behavioral health care issues, and our partners in this, the Board Association, NAMI, Mental Health America, the vast High Suicide Network, the vast number of folks who are doing the same types of work with community folks and in the mental health and addiction field. And basically, what was what we came up with is we have to be out there. We know that there will be bills that will be introduced. I'll talk about one that we have heard about, but we don't have a whole lot of information on yet. And there also will be stabs at where funding goes. And we have to be out there with prevention services, asking for funding for extended prevention services with the elected officials. The point that, obviously the starter point is the opiate epidemic that we have here in the state of Ohio. From what we were talking about yesterday, the numbers that we're going to see for 2016, people's, and I quote, people's jaws are going to drop on the floor, the opiate deaths. So we're not going, as far as deaths, we're not going in a positive direction, and we're going to have quite a number. We don't know exactly how many yet. The numbers have not been finalized, but we do know that they're going to be more than what we've had in the past, and this year we actually set a record. So this is something we really need to address with our legislators. And we also, I think, need to advocate for the continuum of care. As we advocate for prevention service dollars, we also can't forget treatment and recovery services. We need to be out there together doing this and sharing that this is not a, you can't just fund treatment, you can't just fund recovery, you can't just fund prevention. It's got to be an entire a process. That what prevention doesn't catch, treatment can catch, and hopefully can lead people to recovery. The other two bills that are moving quickly through the House and Senate are both of them sound an awful lot alike. They deal with basically fillers in drug possession charges. Senate Bill 1 deals with stricter laws regarding fentanyl. It increases the penalties on fentanyl. It also takes into account, adding, when you have fentanyl, instead of labs separating that out. Basically, what this job would do is if there are fillers, whatever it's mixed with, if it's mixed with marijuana, if it's mixed with heroin, it could all be considered fentanyl together instead of separating those out, which is a much more dubious process, and consider that the fentanyl-related crime. It also issues a much lower limit on possession. The ACLU is fighting this pretty hard, saying we've got enough people who are in jails right now who are in for drug-related charges, and they don't want this to be another one. Also, House Bill 4 has moved through very, very quickly. This was brought about. And recently the Ohio Supreme Court ruled that drug offenses, cocaine, when it's mixed with something that you just add in, everything together. You don't actually separate out the cocaine, and because when drug dealers mix up all of this stuff, the cocaine with baby formula and heroin or whatever else they're mixing it with, they separating that out again is a dubious process. The Ohio State Supreme Court just ruled that the drug, whatever all the fillers are, it's actually going to be considered a cocaine offense, and it'll be total weight and not just the amount of cocaine within the mixture that the folks have. That the drug dealers have. There are some folks that are saying, you know what, we just need to drop this bill now, but the committee feels that it should go forward so we don't have this type of situation in the future. So House Bill 4 is going through very quickly, but again, with the Ohio Supreme Court ruling last week about the same type of case, then they don't know whether this is actually going to go forward or whether it's just going to stop because the court's already ruled. So that's the the State House update that we have. The next piece we want to go to is the medical marijuana update. The rules have been submitted to not JCAR, but the piece over that Mary Taylor, the Lieutenant Governor, has, the Common Sense Initiative, and basically the rules are saying that there was an increase. Originally the rules read that there were 18 marijuana grow sites. They've increased that to 24, and an increase from 40 dispensaries in the state of Ohio to 60. There was also an increase in the size of the grow sites. What's interesting this week is it was reported is Ian James and Jimmy Gould, two of the folks who actually came up with the Responsible Ohio plan, the marijuana monopoly, have now entered the medical marijuana market and are using all of the same talking points that we only care about patients. It's not about money for us and all that kind of stuff. Almost cursed. So, so they've increased the number of grow sites and dispensaries. Again, the people who are really going to be making the money are the grow sites, the ones who are, there's no set price of marijuana in the state. The state's not doing that. It's going to be based on market value. The dispensaries are going to be, caught up in some issues regarding federal and state government and those types of things. Taxes, you can't write for a marijuana business in a dispensary in Ohio. You cannot write off on your federal taxes any business-related expenses, and folks have sued over that, and still they can't take the write-offs. So really the money makers are the folks who are growing it. The other piece about the dispensaries is, everybody says, oh, it's going to be it's going to be jobs, jobs, jobs. Well, we find out that most, the average pay of these folks in Colorado is about $30,000 a year. This is not exactly high-tech jobs for folks, who are earning a big living. In fact, I would like to see them do a study about how many people who are actually working in the marijuana industry actually have to get public assistance as well. You know, the ones who are making the money are the grow sites, and you know, the folks who are working there are not making a whole lot of money. We still got, because of the work that y'all did, home delivery is still eliminated. They're trying to develop a technology that could actually make that happen, but it's eliminated. We don't have to worry about that in our cities and towns. I'm sure in the next year or two that will be something that the marijuana advocates will absolutely want. You know, Weed Maps is probably the most high-profile home delivery system that there is in the United States. You know, they will bring in their team of lobbyists to try to get home delivery in Ohio. Ohio will have according to the stats I'm reading, Ohio will have the 5th largest marijuana market in the United States because of our population. We're 11 million people, 11 and a half or 12 million people. Caregivers will be able to receive 2 patients, so they can receive twice as much marijuana as patients. And the next meeting was actually canceled because of so many budget questions. You know, there was a question asked about fiscal analysis and what folks are. You know, what is this going to cost, and how much is this going to impact folks around the state who want to acquire medical marijuana? So the next budget or the next meeting is going to be canceled, and the following one will be the first week of April. So that's part of the medical marijuana update for the rules that were just submitted. The next set of rules that were discussed were the 90-day supply rule. What makes up a 90-day supply of medical marijuana without science and all the other things that usually go into any kind of medication being dispensed in our society? The Ohio Board of Pharmacy actually came up with a formula. They determined potency instead of a set amount, so it isn't like you get 2 ounces every so many days like the majority of other states do. It's actually determined by potency. Of course, the plant matter marijuana, you can't smoke it supposedly, but the plant matter, you can have up to 35% THC. The edibles, the patches, and all of the other means of ingestion will be up to 70%, the oils and such. But for the plant matter, if you have less than 23% THC levels, you would be allowed 6 ounces per 90 days, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but when you think about, there's about between 50 and 60 joints, and I know you aren't allowed to smoke it, but usable marijuana for every ounce. 6 ounces can be about 300 joints. So over 90 days, you do 3 or 4 a day. That's plenty of marijuana. Not a whole lot left for if you're truly using it for what it's used for, or what you said your card is for. It's not a whole lot left for black market and selling. If you have over 23% and less than 35% the THC limit, then you'd be limited to 4 ounces every 90 days. This is pretty high-powered stuff when you think about marijuana back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s being about somewhere around 4%. I was in Rhode Island this past week and spoke to a woman who was heading up the American Society of Child Psychology, and she was talking about the 3 to 4% THC. We just don't have a whole lot of studies about what this does to the human brain. That the 10 times amount of THC that we have now kind of floating around our communities. For vaporizing oils, the limit would be 40.5 grams. For patches, 19.8 grams. And anything taken orally, there's a 9 gram 9-gram limit. So that's talking about your edibles and all of those other things. So that's what the rules are on the table now. The ability to comment on the website was taken down last Friday, so we'll have to see what the public comment was. I hope you made your public comments. On a national scale, Rhode Island is going through its process. We visited there last week to basically held a press conference with the Attorney General, the American Society of Adolescent Psychiatry, the American Academy of Pediatrics, some law enforcement, a couple business owners, to fight back against legalization. Vermont, they're looking at the same, a bill there to basically legalize marijuana. However, we don't think that's going to pass, but there will be a decriminalization bill which would allow each person to have 5 plants in their state, which is, if you can get 2 pounds, if you're a decent gardener and get 2 pounds, it's 10 pounds a pot. That's a lot of marijuana, and that's going to cover a huge black market in that state. New Hampshire, Connecticut, Maryland are all weighing the same types of legalization arguments. They're all going through the legislative process. New Mexico, their their General Assembly actually ends on Saturday, so they will be they will have defeated marijuana in that state. And then also we have questions about the federal government. We still don't know where that is going. We have had hints that there's going to be a much stricter regime through the Trump administration than the previous administration had in regards to marijuana and enforcing federal marijuana laws, especially recreational. It doesn't seem like medical is going to be touched at all, but the things that we're hearing is that the Department of Justice may bring some hammer down, some lawsuits and those types of things to start shutting that system down in those other states. So there could be a showdown here very shortly. So the next piece is going back to the budget. The State of Ohio budget, there will be testimony. There will be testimony actually today, Thursday, and then next Tuesday and Thursday. We encourage you to submit any written testimony that you have to Romanchuk, Representative Romanchuk, who is the chair of the House Health and Human Services Finance Subcommittee. He's the chair of that. It's a small committee, but this is where we'll be able to submit our requests as far as funding. And this is something that we again go back to our 4 points of our testimony. We want to make sure that community-based groups, community-based processes are going to be funded. The school-based prevention with the Attorney General, some of his recommendations. Also, that workforce development be increased in the state of Ohio, so we have more prevention specialists in the state to do the work. And then also the use of evidence-based practices as well. Those are the 4 points of testimony we're going toward. One of the things that Drug Free Action Alliance is also doing is on the 23rd, which is a week from Thursday, we, along with the American Society of Addiction Medicine and their president of the Ohio chapter, Dr. Sean Ryan from Cincinnati, will be coming together and doing a legislative breakfast for all the legislators to talk about the opiate issue. Marcy will be doing a piece on evidence-based prevention. Brittany will be doing a piece on community-based processes and their successes, while Dr. Ryan will be talking about treatment and recovery pieces. So this is something that we encourage you to reach out to your legislators to ask them to attend. It's 8:30 on the 23rd. It's free to legislators, And you know, we hope to have a number of legislators that will then you know, consider what we you know, the expertise that is out in the field, and the expertise in the panelists that we will have for the day to talk about and encourage a real you know, a real plan instead of just kind of throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks. So one of the final issues that I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to turn it over to Brittany. I get a lot of questions about federal issues. You know, what's going on with the federal government? You know, is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? So I thought I would basically, if you see all the question marks, that's what we got. A whole bunch of questions, not a whole lot of answers. Marijuana, again, there are hints that they're going to come at this from a standpoint that they're going to actually enforce federal law. But until it actually happens, you know, we don't know how they're going to do that. Is it going to be a shut down everything, or is it going to be more of lawsuits and those types of things? We do know that the president's budget is going to be released on Thursday. You know, I don't know of a presidential budget that's passed in last 30 years, but it will give us a hint and a glimpse into what the current administration wants as far as funding and what some of their priorities are. There's a lot of rumors about ONDCP. Is it going away? From what we are hearing, ONDCP will not go away. We're actually pushing that it be back as a cabinet level agency and not you know, where it doesn't get as much play. But we don't know what's going to happen. We don't have a, you know, there's an acting ONDCP director, but no one named permanent. From folks we've talked to, it's you know, just kind of, you know, wait and see mode. There's also the issue of the Affordable Care Act, and that is something that Governor Kasich was on Meet the Press this week, actually advocating that they keep the current system where 700,000 more Ohioans have achieved health care in the state, many of those with substance abuse and mental health issues that weren't covered before. There's also this Republican plan that is floating out there that, you know, it seems a couple of folks, I know Senator Portman has one, that he is floating out there. And then one of the pieces that was not heard of, or, you know, heard outside of the D.C. Beltway is the Office of Government Accountability did a report and actually kind of slammed SAMHSA. They identified SAMHSA and said they were not properly monitoring DFC. So if you're a DFC grantee, and I know a lot of folks are trying to get their trying to get their application in. Brittany reminded me of that today. You know, this is something that's going to be under scrutiny as far as how the reporting processes and things like that. So don't let that come as a surprise. SAMHSA was publicly named in this document, and they're probably going to put the heat on as far as reporting requirements and making sure that those are met at all times. So at this point, I wanted to turn this over to Brittany Sandage to talk a little bit about the SPCA and Youth-Led Legislative Day. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Tony. And just as a reminder, Tony Coder serves as our Director of Public Policy and Advocacy, and he will be on the call with us for the remainder of my comments. If you do have any lingering questions or are looking for some of the information that he may have referenced, please make sure you submit a question to us on the webinar, and we'll make sure it's included in some of the follow-up, or we'll ask Tony to respond to it as well. For those of you who have not yet met me before, I hope that we remedy that soon. My role here is as the Director of Coalition Programs. I have the pleasure and the privilege of coordinating the Statewide Prevention Coalition Association. And this year we paired up, it was not our first opportunity, with the Ohio Youth-Led Prevention Network. The intention was to bring some of the energy around what spring means and how many issues we know are on the table, a lot of the burdens and the pressures that our legislators are facing to answer questions from their constituents on what do we do and how do we do it around the addiction crisis that is peppering our media headlines. The goal was to be the face and the voice and to help bring some solutions as well as some familiarity to our legislators. So over the course of the day, it was a wonderful day. In terms of just some themes that I wanted to touch on, we're going to go into this more at the SPCA meeting on March 21st. You can register for that on our website now. But some general themes that I think it's important for us to take away. As groups were going to their appointments, and we met with both senators as well as representatives over the course of the day, among youth groups as well as among adult-based coalitions, a few notable things came up. First, I heard from many of the groups that representatives seemed a little bit more familiar to what prevention is and a little bit more willing to listen this year than in some times past. And for us, that seems to be a testament to the fact that more and more conversation is being had on the importance of prevention in this larger conversation about what do we do, given the rise in opiate deaths and many of the other issues. One of the other themes that came out of the day was the fact that many groups were being asked budget questions. You know, where does prevention funding come from? Do you guys get it at the local level? How are your youth-led efforts being supported? And for Drug-Free Action Alliance, sort of listening on the other end of this and helping to give guidance, one of the important takeaways for all of us in that is to be aware that being in the room to answer those questions at a time like this when the budget is under consideration is key. So one of the things I would ask each coalition, even if you weren't able to participate, go and look up the information for your local representatives. If you don't already have a conversation going with their office, start one. Make yourselves known to who they are. As we go through the next year, there's no question in my mind that I think I can believe that Tony would say the same. The conversation around what we do, how we organize our efforts, where we put our money for prevention is just going to get louder and stronger and bigger. There will be a great deal of emphasis put on what are we making happen at the local level. Each and every one of the groups that are a part of SPCA certainly are trading ideas, and they're getting things done. And a lot of times the message with prevention gets lost without any hope. And one of the things that being in the room and participating in these legislative outreach days, submitting your comments, reaching out to your elected officials, is that they begin to see that there are solutions and resources just as much as there is a problem that we need to raise the awareness around and that we need to tackle. Community coalitions are so well poised, as are our youth leaders, to take that message forward and get people on board. So in coming off of the legislative day and getting some wonderful photos and some wonderful interactions, it also became very apparent that the more the mightier. And so in moving forward in the coming year and in the coming months, there's just so many opportunities for us to build on some of the momentum that we've already started as a field. So if you are able, I will put in a last plug that please try to send someone to our next SPCA meeting, which is on March 21st. It runs from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We're going to be meeting in the Columbus area at a local nonprofit. It's called the Cherry Newsies, but all of the address information is currently online when you register. But at that meeting, we'll certainly be talking a little bit more about what those experiences were, what we can do to be better prepared when we go into these conversations, and what types of resources or talking points are actually resonating. I think being able to look at that conversation and say, well, what did they actually key in on and why is a very important part of us moving forward and making sure that prevention plays a very heavy role in solving the community health issues that we know are happening across the state. So just wanted to give a little bit of a feedback to thank all of the communities and all of the youth-led groups that participated that day. It was good. We ate a lot of bagels, drank a lot of coffee, and did a lot of talking. It was a wonderful today. More photos can be found on Facebook, certainly, but in addition to all of these materials and the webinar today, we will be posting in the SPCA member portal access to all the documents that were shared with those who attended on the legislative day, as well as the notes and the PowerPoint from this webinar. So I encourage you all, reach out, let us know, but also, as Tony asked, make sure your voices are heard. They were so appreciated when we were in the room and at the State House last week. So thank you again to everyone who participated. And at this point, Tony, if you could just address one question, if I still have you on the line.
Yep.
We had a question about accessing the who to send the information to with regard to the budget process. I think you had mentioned that earlier.
Yes. His name is Representative Romanchuk, and he is chair of the House. I'm sorry, geez, I messed this up, too many H's. The House Health and Human Services Subcommittee, Finance Subcommittee. The House Health and Human Services Finance Subcommittee. So what they're actually part of the overall Finance Committee, but the Finance Committee is so large that they split it up into little subgroups to hear the issue. So if you want to write him, his name is Mark Romanchuk, R-O-M-A-N-C-H-U-K, and we will actually be trying to schedule meetings with Representative Romanchuk. But that would be a great person to reach out, submit your written testimony to. The address is 77 South High Street, Columbus, Ohio, 43215. So I hope that will be that's enough information. But you know, we do need folks to write letters, to supply testimony, and let our voices be heard that prevention definitely needs to have a funding stream in the Ohio budget.
Thank you very much, Tony. And we will certainly include that in the follow-up email to participants as well to make that a bit easier. Great question. Thank you very much. The only other current question that we had, Tony, if you don't mind, I think this one's for you. With regard to the public comment and the windows, there was a question about whether or not they're getting shorter between the time that these rules are being released and how much time we have to respond to them. Can you speak to whether the process is speeding up or where we are and how best to organize our efforts?
Yeah, they are speeding up, and it's not so much that they don't want public comment. They actually do, and it does make a difference. Seeing that firsthand, the issue is we're running up against a very, very tight timeline that the General Assembly has put up on us to get rules in place. To set up an industry like this is no easy task, especially when you're considering the public health and public safety concerns. And you know, and we're talking about we have to have all of the growers named by May May of this year, so that they can start growing. And then, you know, we've got to have an application process for dispensaries. We've got to have background checks. So they are moving quickly, and I would love to discuss how we could possibly get a better system of supplying public comment, because your comments, like I said, the home delivery is a great example about the only way that was stopped was the input that y'all had, and we doubled the number of comments that the legalizers submitted. So you know, it's very important, and maybe when we get the rules the day of, we put out a legislative action alert. Maybe it's something that we can have a quick phone call or webinar on. I think that's something we can talk about, but you know, if you have any suggestions as well, because your opinions, your thoughts, your expertise are so important in this conversation, and we can't miss out on them because of you know, short time frames, which I know they're very short. So I would love to have any kind of thoughts or process process issues that are brought up that might make things easier for us to get information out to y'all.
Thank you so much, Tony. Thank you all very much for joining us today. At this time, we'll take any further questions via email, so please do not hesitate to reach back out. And make sure to save the date for our next advocacy webinar, which I believe is April 11th. All right, thank you so much, everyone. Stay safe if you're on the roads and in one of the wintry areas, and we hope to see you very soon. Have a great day.